Good. Hi, Rumaiza. Nice to meet you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Simi. Thank you for having me. And thank
Thank you
you,
so much for
Sparc
joining.
and
Yeah.
Laurel, for having me here today.
Okay. So I just wanted this to be like a simple conversational coffee chat where we could just ask about you and get to know about your journey and just learn from your experiences majorly. Um, so I thought before starting, I'll just introduce myself, and then we can move on to asking about yourself and then learning about your experiences with Wedy. Okay, so I am from India originally. I am a student at Duke University pursuing a master's degree in engineering management. One of the courses we have at Duke is called Design Thinking and Innovation, which is where I came across Sparc. Now, Sparc is a company that comes to Duke for student consultants, where we work with Sparc and different other organizations for a semester-long project to tackle different design challenges and come up with recommendations and solutions to how they can tackle them. This is how I was introduced to L'Oreal and Spark, and then we worked on the same project for four months in the last semester. And then I interned with L'Oreal over the summer to just get to know more about the space and help him out with a few things. So this was very interesting, and that is when I got to know that Spark also has this very interesting feature when we could interact with entrepreneurs and get to know more about how they build their platform and products. And this is where I got to know about Vedi. And then this was very fortunate to just join you today for the call and just understand your journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you for that. And Laurel's we were in the same group in the Techstars New York cohort, so I'm really excited
Okay,
to get started.
of course. Okay. So I thought before coming to very specific questions that people had posted, why not we just get to know a little bit about your journey from the very beginning? So what I understand is before even starting Vedi, you did work as a wedding planner. So if you could go till there and let's start from there, or even before that, if you were comfortable, would
Yeah.
be really great to just understand how it all began and where it all began.
Absolutely. So, just like you, I'm from India as well. I only moved here in 2018, and my background is in architecture. So, everything that I do today really stems from my design experience. So I've been an entrepreneur from the time I was 18. So you'll probably see
Okay.
this on my LinkedIn. When
Yeah.
I was still in school, I started my first company called the Little House of Cupcakes. And what was what was very interesting about that experience as a student entrepreneur was people thought I was baking cakes, but what I ended up doing is I started contacting home bakers and I became obsessed with how they were finding distribution and solving logistics. So this is pre, Uber Eats, Swiggy days in India. There was not a lot of delivery systems out there. So that was the foundational of my entrepreneurial journey. And then from there, I started getting a lot of clients being interested in weddings. And this is the part where most people are like, were you a wedding planner? And the difference is I was actually a wedding designer. I was never really
Okay.
like a person, setting up the tables and chairs. What I did was I was building 3D modeling renders for clients. And again, this is a time where nobody in the space was doing this. And I was able to break into the luxury market right off the bat. And I got my big break when I planned an Indian sports celebrity's wedding. So
Okay.
these are folks who are spending 200 to $300,000 on just their, one wedding day.
Right.
So that was really, again, how I got started. And a very interesting part about my job in the wedding world was I was working very closely with tourism boards. So destination weddings were starting to take off. And if you really think about it, people wanted to go, especially with Asian weddings, there are like 2,000 people. If it's a destination wedding, probably 4 to 500. And it goes on for multiple days. So I
Correct.
started working very closely, for example, with the Tourism Authority of Thailand. They were starting to see that this is driving direct consumer spending. In addition to the wedding day, there's flights, hotels, and other streams of revenue being booked that really boost the local economy and its vendors. So that gave me a whole preview into the world of operationally what happens behind the scenes. So that was my second endeavor. And then I got a successful exit with that business, moved to the States. I really started Wedy out of a personal pain point, but I knew we wanted to do something larger in the space where we could enable tech to solve these problems. Whether I have a global experience with working with suppliers across the world, whether it's in Bali or Italy or in Palm Springs, California. And I've done a $400,000 wedding, and I've also done a $40,000 wedding. And the pain point is still the same. People are paying these suppliers through checks, through digital payments like Square or wire transfers. And these are 20 to 30 suppliers being booked for that, let's say, $50,000 wedding. And
Right.
couples are still keeping track of these fragmented payments on things like Google spreadsheets. And they're like, who the hell do I owe money to? And it's a very antiquated process where if you wanted to book, let's say, a photographer, you will not find real-time price and availability online in the wedding and events world. You're filling an outdated contact form. You wait 2 to 3 days to hear back from the supplier. And let's say you reached out to 20 different photographers, you can only book one. So you basically ghosted 19 suppliers. And that's really where the pain point is on the flip side, where there are these business owners who, they waste over 1,800 hours per year on these low intent leads. So that was really the foundation of how we got started with Wedy. We truly wanted to solve the problem on both sides of the market.
Okay.
So yeah, I hope that gives you some context. And of course, I'm happy to talk about Wedy as we keep going.
Yeah. So this was a great context to understand with. Now I have a follow-up question to that. Now you said you were trying to solve the pain point of the entire process, which took a lot of time for follow-ups and things which were unorganized. Uh, just to understand a little better, does Vedi solve the problem for only, like, do I reach out to Vedi as an individual customer who wants to get a wedding done, or is there a third party who is reaching out to Vedi on behalf of me who is managing my wedding?
That's a great question. So I'll backtrack a little bit and give you my, elevator pitch so everyone knows what Wedy is.
Okay.
So for engaged couples, booking a wedding is a hassle where you're dealing with these vendor contracts and payments. So what Wedy does is we help couples to bundle different vendor services. So photography, venue, catering, all of these different services, and book it as one curated package.
Okay.
And how we do that is we're actually a SaaS product on the back end for high ticket businesses like venues, photographers, and caterers. And
Right.
that's really how we built the booking engine, where we take all of the data points from the supply side, aggregate them so couples can actually bundle these services and book it as one package. To answer your question, it is the couple who download our app and they decide,
Okay.
okay, I'm getting married in Big Sur, California. This is the wedding venue I want to go with. And with that specific venue, you need catering and DJ, again, flowers and 19 other services. So you have a choice here. You're in 2024. Do you want to piecemeal it together or do you want to book it as an all-inclusive experience? And the way our platform is designed, this is the top question I get asked. They book a package, but our recommendation engine shows them preferred vendors. So let's say you booked a package which had 6 hours of photography. We are
Hmm.
showing the customer, which is the engaged couple, at least 5 different vendors who have previously worked at the property, who fit their budget. So they simply have to pick and choose whom they want to work with instead of contacting photographer Brett versus Lauren versus Ben and finding out their pricing and booking them for their wedding day.
Amazing. That makes sense. Now this gives like a lot of understanding to us of how it operates from a higher sense. Okay. Now, another question that I have is let's say the entire process of a wedding is, although very extravagant in a lot of ways, but is also very emotional to a couple, right? And the family involved. How does Vedi tackle that situation altogether? Because people come in with a lot of expectation that things would go very perfect, and then I only want to spend this much amount on my wedding. How do
Yeah.
you tackle these kind of clients?
Yes, that's a great question. So let's talk about market segmentation because that's really where this falls under. So long story short, Wedy is a three-pronged marketplace. Kind of like DoorDash in that sense. We have our venues, we have our vendors, and we have our customers. Now, with that
Okay.
three-pronged marketplace, we specifically serve the mid-market. So if you take the American, wedding market, it's a $72 billion industry. 10% of that is courthouse weddings, which are really the low end of the equation. And then you have the other end, which is 16%, which are high production luxury planners. These wedding planners start north of $10,000 per service, and not everyone in the average wedding is $33,000. These couples cannot afford to spend 10K on a wedding planner. So we specifically target that mid-market segment. So
Okay.
coming back to your question with how we think about that specific component, it is emotion. It is one of those high ticket purchases that extremely emotionally driven. I would compare it to the process of kind of the worlds of Zillow, where it's very similar to the home buying experience, where
Right.
it's operationally complex and these are high ticket transactions. So we see, checkouts anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 in our app. And last week we had a booking for $55,000. And the last time those kind of consumer transactions were taking place were on like platforms like Tesla, where you're buying, an e-commerce
Yeah.
experience or, a high ticket purchase like a car. So that's really the realm we operate in. It's not booking a $200 Airbnb for, a weekend stay. So there is a lot of complexity involved, which is why building trust on both sides of the marketplace is something I'm sure you're going to get to that. We deeply think about.
Amazing. Yeah. This is just like something that I felt was again very important to just understand um, because the entire ecosystem works parallelly. And then, yeah, thank you for explaining that. Yeah. Uh, Another question I had, Rumaiza, was now I know that you bootstrapped Wedy, and then although you had a lot of experience in this sector, but it still takes a lot of finances to build a company like this, which is managing multiple vendors, is also expectation, like managing the expectation of the clients and making sure the wedding day, which is a very important day for the couple, goes really well. How did that journey happen where you started from, let's say, benchmark zero to where Wedy is right now, which we know is over $1 billion in revenue? How did that journey happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if anyone is curious about marketplaces, the short answer is supply is the most important thing, and demand always follows supply. And people say it's a chicken and egg problem, but it's always very straightforward. You need to have quality supply before you even turn on a city or a market. And I can give you an example. Nate, who's one of the co-founders of Airbnb, said it took them about 300 listings with 100 reviews to activate one city for Airbnb. And then they would
Okay.
move on to city number two. But again, with Air, like that's a completely different style of marketplace. But if you asked, for example, DoorDash or how many restaurants they needed before they moved on to the next tier, the answer is going to be different. So what we started doing initially, again, it's pretty much the classic cold start problem, is we started thinking very deeply about the top of the funnel, which is couples end up first booking their wedding venue. That is the highest ticket purchase. These venues are starting at $10,000, $15,000 just for the wedding venue alone. And that's when they start thinking about the vendor services. So we invested heavily in making sure we had quality options for the physicality, which is the properties that we onboard on our platform. And then we design the experience around, okay, what do you need to host a complete event at this property? Because that's really where the challenge is. Again, this was post-COVID worlds where people were we had couples from, Chicago trying to plan a wedding in Southern California. They probably have been there twice. And are you going to make multiple trips to, Palm Springs to visit that property? You may not have the time. Or again, with the restrictions with things were changing with the COVID world, we had to make sure that that part of transparency was more streamlined for them. So we focused on making sure we started with only 5 service categories first, instead of,
Okay.
oh, I'm gonna, wedding needs 30 services. We can't serve all 30 service categories yet. So we went more like niche and really invested more into those five service categories before we thought about expanding not just the service categories, but also the newer destinations. So I mean, the raw answer to the whole bootstrap problem is I believe in something called transferable skills. That is something every single entrepreneur should have, which is as an architect, I was very proficient in Photoshop and AutoCAD and all of these tools. And then this was a time when I was like, okay, I hired someone who was formerly at Facebook to be our UX designer. And then when costs started going through the roof, I'm like, okay, cool. I saw how they were actually designing everything on Figma. I taught myself how to design, and I designed the entire UI UX of our mobile app. And my co-founder now, he's also our CTO. He built our product. So it's definitely we did have a scrappy start in that true sense, where we taught
Right.
ourselves how to code and how to design. And we wanted to make sure we had we always keep shipping is the second answer. A lot of people gatekeep, they think about very unnecessary details like how much am I going to price my product? How is this going to be perceived at? So we truly follow that principle where every week there's something new being shipped out, and then we hear client feedback or vendor feedback, and then make those iterations in real time. That was really how we got started. And then, of course, making sure I made a bunch of cold calls. Like I called like 50 photographers in San Francisco, and I'm like, will you come and
Yeah.
with my product? Like really, really scrappy things like that. Pretty much done everything in the playbook in terms of making sure we got that initial kick to get our flywheel going. But again, with marketplaces, that definitely is a deeper conversation where there's a lot of layers of complexity, because what works for a photographer, that is one service category, does not work for, let's say, what is another category? Like a catering team. So those are completely different services. And if I were to give you an analogy with Airbnb, independent homes versus hotels operate completely differently. So you cannot treat those two categories the same in terms of how you acquire them. So we had to make sure our playbook was refined based on the service category we were going after.
Okay. Yeah, this would have been really like when we hear about your story, it sounds very amazing, but I'm sure it came with a lot of struggle and a lot of changes that you would have made every year, every client on client, and may reiterated your
I will
approach
say this
towards this.
though, I think I'm not there, or my team is not there at any of these weddings. So
Yeah,
that's something investors get, or right off the bat. We're not the ones setting up the tables and chairs. There's
yeah.
actually a DF coordinator who's a third-party service provider, just like a photographer, that couples are booking through our platform, who goes on site and makes sure nobody dies. Like that's off our hands. We're truly a booking platform.
Just a
So
marketplace.
yeah, we're a marketplace, and we continue to invest in our vendor software because weddings are a one-time event. So people get married, they get the hell out. So we
Yeah,
continue to focus on the repeatability from the suppliers. These venues and vendors book 100 to 150 weddings per year. And these
right.
venues generate 1 to 1.5 million. That's just one property. So we're continuing to focus on that because that's really where the repeatability is. And that's really where you build a scalable, venture backable business.
Amazing. Okay, okay. Yeah, I was also just like coming to that part of the question where is there someone in the team who's involved in the weddings? But yeah, thank you for clearing that out. Thank you so much. I just wanted to open the discussion to the people who have joined if they have any questions. I do have a few things to discuss with you, but yeah, if anyone has a question, please feel free to post that on the chat and we'll take that up. Um, another thing that I wanted to ask Romeza is you mentioned trust. You mentioned how important it is to build trust in the vendors that you have, and especially the customers who are booking the venues and services through that. What do you think is very important in what Wedy is offering that enables that trust factor in these
Yeah.
two different users?
So high level, first level principles is obviously our platform has a review and rating system, and we have a very rigorous vetting process for these suppliers. It's not someone who picked up a camera yesterday and then went on Facebook and started a business. We make sure that these are actually registered businesses, and there's an entire process that goes into place into making sure this is an approved service provider. So that is part of the legwork on our side that we take extremely seriously. Again, because from a consumer perspective, this is truly a one-time event. We want to make sure nobody messes up. And then, sorry, what was the second part of the question again about trust?
Yeah,
How
so I mentioned, yeah, you were talking about how important it was early to build up the trust for customers so that they can trust Ready to, book a
to
vendor
book?
for their wedding. How
Oh,
did you
yes.
make
How
sure
did
that
we?
was enabled? Yeah.
Oh, that is actually so interesting. So prior to Shark Tank, we did not have a PR hit at all. Again, because we're
Okay.
a bootstrap business. So that was kind of very interesting. And we started to realize, okay, again, top of the funnel, it's always the venue. So the venue is the horse's mouth. So we realized that every venue we onboarded, we gain access to their preferred vendors. That's really how the industry works. So we made sure that we kind of use that network system to be able to build out the trust in the customer, because once they booked it, they're asking them for the other services. So we kind of leveraged on that. And again, we also did take a bottoms up approach, where we started with elopements and micro weddings and then started scaling up to the larger weddings. That was a very strategic choice as well. So operationally, we were doing that. But from a marketing standpoint, we continued to kind of sell, focused on the wedding experience. So it was easy to get started bottoms up that way versus top down.
Okay. 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 Amazing. Uh, I have a question that you would have, a lot of people would ask you regularly, but I just wanted to bring it up because I was just curious to know how was the entire Shark Tank experience for you? How did that go from like preparation to the pitch? How was that? How did that happen?
It was an amazing experience. So I believe so Shark Tank has a less than 0.1% acceptance rate or something like that. Sorry, 0.4%. And with that, the casting producer reached out to us. That was very
Okay.
interesting because I thought that was spam, and we hadn't responded to her for weeks. And then she also messaged us on Instagram or Facebook, and we got on a call. But it was an amazing experience because because they had reached out to us. Kevin O'Leary, for whatever reason, is ordained in the state of California. They always wanted to do a wedding on the show. So
Okay.
they had, I mean, spoiler alert, it's reality TV. The whole thing is scripted.
Yeah.
So, it's not like the entrepreneur goes there and then, things are extremely spontaneous. Every single thing is staged and pre-designed. So keeping that in mind, we knew that this was going to be a great PR hit moment for us where, Kevin ordained this couple and we did the world's first Shark Tank wedding. So that was an extremely enriching creative experience. And we got to collaborate. So I used that opportunity to, target some luxury florists and rental teams and vendors in the markets we serve, and really use that as a promotional tool where it's like, yes, we're going to be on national TV, but also wanted to make sure that that translated into social media and all the other channels we were being mentioned on. So and then the byproduct of that was we got immense trust from both consumers and vendors. We got over like 2,800 vendors requesting to join our platform. And we were at that time not present in the East Coast yet. So we got a lot of demand for our launch in New York, Orlando, and Chicago. So that's something we're very excited about for 2025.
Amazing. Amazing. You just touched about what you're excited about in the future. If that is okay, can you just share with us how do you look at Wedi in the like next couple of years, let's say next 2, 3 years? What is the trajectory looking for you right now?
Yeah. So I different startups have different, benchmarks that they do follow. And we like to personally follow some marketplace matrices of, pre-seed to seed to Series A and really look at the true unit economics of, okay, what's our monthly GMV looking like and how much are our suppliers earning through the platform. There are some magic numbers around that because that's really what turns on the flywheel at scale. So what we're focused on right now, especially, having gone through Techstars most recently, is we had launched a bunch of markets in California and Arizona and Colorado and Utah. So we are continuing to double down in those markets while also thinking about one additional market where we've got great demand from post Shark Tank. So new market launches, acquiring new supply acquisition and product development is something we're working on. We most recently hired a UX designer who used to be a senior product designer at Tesla. So hiring is always top of mind. So if someone's interested in building mobile and web app products, always, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And then sidebar, if anyone's interested in the hospitality industry and travel, feel free to reach out to me. We're always hiring for supply acquisition and we're always hiring growth marketers. That's a very critical role because with marketplaces, you have a market maker. Because prior to Wedy, like this experience of booking supply doesn't exist online. All the wedding companies are just directories. You can go and read reviews, you can see photos, and then you fill a contact form. So
Right.
we're very thinking about the whole early days of Uber, early days of Airbnb. There was that one person who went and acquired, boots on the ground growth marketer. So I'm just adding that little plug if anyone's interested in exploring the operations side of the business.
Amazing. No, no, I think that is very interesting to know, and we're all very excited for Ready. And thank you so much for sharing your journey and just insights from how did you learn throughout all the events that happened in between. It's just great to understand how the entire business operates, and just thank you for giving us an overview of how the entire vendor ecosystem works and how does the customer actually managed, like eventually started trusting the application. So yeah, thank you so much for that. It was a great session, great time talking to you, and thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for Spark to just like help us organize this event. Yeah, thank you so much, Rumaiza. Hope you had a great time or like good time talking to us.
Thank you, Sumit. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thank
Of
you, Laura
course,
and Spark, for having me. Have a good one.
thank you. Bye bye.